At the airport, I watched them walk away without a single word. My own family left me stranded, and I couldn't believe it. Then, a man in a sharp suit leaned close and whispered, "Let them." I didn't know if he was mocking me or giving me advice, but his words stuck in my mind. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Sarah Quinn, and I had never felt so alone in my life. My parents and my younger brother had promised to meet me for an urgent family matter, but they never showed. I called them, begged them, but they just laughed and said I should manage on my own. I was in a city I barely knew, with only my carry-on and my confusion. Every announcement over the airport speakers felt louder, reminding me that no one was coming for me. I sat on a cold bench, my heart pounding. I thought about all the times I trusted them, the secrets I shared, the love I gave. And now, none of it mattered. I realized they didn't care about me, they had chosen someone else, money, or comfort over their own family. That stranger's words echoed in my mind. Maybe it was true. Maybe I needed to let them go. But instead of breaking, I felt something new, anger, a spark that told me I could fight back. I couldn't change what they did, but I could make sure they would regret ever abandoning me. That day at the airport, my life changed forever. Alone, betrayed, and angry, I promised myself I would turn this pain into strength, and my story had just begun. I dialed my parents' number again, my hands trembling. When they answered, I expected excuses, maybe a hint of guilt. Instead, their laughter cut through the line like ice. "Sarah, we just couldn't make it," my father said, his voice light, careless, like I was asking for something ridiculous. My mother chuckled in the background, as if my panic was some kind of joke. I felt my chest tighten. How could they be so cold? Every desperate plea, every word I said, they brushed it off like I didn't exist. I wasn't just ignored, I was erased. Then I remembered Dane Merrick, my cousin. He had always seemed charming, almost too perfect, always smiling when everyone was watching. But now, pieces started to fall together. I realized it wasn't random. He had manipulated the situation, whispered lies, convinced my parents to stay away, all so he could sneak into our family estate and gain control over the inheritance. A chill ran down my spine. The betrayal wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. Dane had used my own family against me. I thought about all the times I had confided in him, trusted him with secrets, shared hopes I didn't even tell my parents. And he had played me. I felt invisible, like I was nothing to those I loved the most. My heart ached not just for the lost support, but for the trust that had been shattered. The people who were supposed to protect me had abandoned me, and the one I considered an ally had planned it all. Tears blurred my vision, but underneath them, a spark ignited. They thought they could break me, but they didn't know I was starting to see clearly. And now, the first real ember of revenge flickered inside me. While I sat on the airport floor, staring at my abandoned luggage, I noticed a man watching me from across the hall. He was impeccably dressed, his presence commanding yet calm. Something about his gaze made my chest tighten, not fear, exactly, but awareness. He approached slowly, tilting his head as if measuring me. "You look like someone carrying too much weight on their shoulders," he said, voice low but steady. Then, almost casually, he whispered, "Let them go, sometimes people deserve to fall." I froze. His words didn't make sense at first. Was he mocking me? A stranger laughing at my misery? Or was he offering some strange kind of guidance? I couldn't tell, and the uncertainty gnawed at me. Yet, beneath my confusion, something stirred. There was clarity in the chaos. The idea that I didn't have to chase after those who hurt me, that I could let go of their control over me, it was oddly empowering. I studied him closely. His expression was unreadable, but there was a sharpness in his eyes, a hint of experience, of knowledge about power and consequence. I realized this man had seen more than I could imagine, and somehow, he recognized the storm in me. As he walked away, I felt a spark ignite. His cryptic advice planted a thought that refused to leave me. Maybe I could turn this abandonment into something more. Maybe I could take the pain they caused and shape it into a plan that would make them regret underestimating me. For the first time since arriving, I didn't feel completely helpless. I felt something new. Potential. And somewhere deep down, I knew the path forward wouldn't be easy, but it might just be worth it. Night settled in, and the terminal grew quieter, but my problems didn't. I checked my wallet and felt my stomach drop. The amount inside wouldn't cover a decent room, not even a proper ride across town. Every option seemed out of reach. I walked from counter to counter, asking about cheaper rates, late shuttles, anything that could get me through the night. Most answers came with polite smiles and prices I couldn't afford. I found a seat near a charging station and opened my email, hoping for something, anything, that made sense. That's when I saw it. A forwarded document I was never meant to receive. It was a property transfer form connected to my grandmother's estate. My name had been removed from a key section. In its place were new terms granting temporary authority to someone else. At the bottom of the page was a signature I recognized instantly. Dane Merrick. My pulse pounded in my ears. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't bad timing. This was planned. They hadn't simply failed to show up, they made sure I would be out of the way. The emergency had been a distraction. While I was stuck here, paperwork was moving forward without me. I downloaded every file attached to that message and sent copies to a private account. My hands no longer shook from fear. They were steady now, focused. A pattern was forming, and I could see it clearly. They thought distance would silence me. They thought confusion would keep me powerless. They were wrong. Right there, under harsh fluorescent lights, I made a decision. I would not beg for answers. I would gather proof. I would expose every lie written on those pages. What started as shock was turning into strategy. And for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. The next morning, I stopped waiting for rescue and started looking for income. I found a short-term position at a small conference center near the terminal, helping with event registration and late-night inventory. The pay was modest, but it gave me access to a computer, quiet hours, and just enough stability to think clearly. During breaks, I began tracing transactions connected to the estate. Public records, business filings, property liens, I searched through everything I could legally access. Patterns emerged. Shell partnerships. Sudden transfers. Quiet adjustments that pointed toward careful manipulation. None of it screamed crime on the surface, but together it painted something deliberate. That's when I met Lucas Rayner. He was a guest speaker at one of the corporate events, a retired attorney who now consulted privately. I overheard him discussing contract loopholes with someone, and something in me decided to take a risk. After his session, I approached him and briefly explained that I suspected financial misconduct involving inheritance documents. He studied me carefully before agreeing to meet for coffee. Lucas didn't offer sympathy. He offered structure. He explained how to document timelines, preserve metadata, request certified copies, and track inconsistencies without alerting the wrong people. Emotion clouds judgment, he said calmly. Evidence wins battles. His guidance shifted everything. I stopped reacting and started organizing. Every receipt, every signature, every unexplained revision went into a growing file. Inside me, frustration still burned. So did disappointment. But those feelings no longer controlled me. They fueled me. Each discovery strengthened my resolve. I wasn't chasing revenge blindly anymore. I was building a case. And the more I uncovered, the clearer it became, this wasn't just greed. It was calculated control. They had underestimated me. They wouldn't make that mistake again. I didn't announce my return to the game. I moved quietly. Through the records Lucas helped me understand, I identified 2 pending partnerships tied to Dane's expansion plans. Both relied on inflated asset reports connected to the estate revisions. Instead of confronting him directly, I sent anonymous compliance inquiries to the firms involved, polite, factual, attaching certified copies of conflicting filings. Within days, one meeting was postponed. Then another. Next, I reached out to two longtime estate advisors, people who had known my grandmother for decades. I didn't accuse anyone. I simply requested clarification about discrepancies in authorization dates and valuation statements. I provided copies. I asked careful questions. The silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't dismissal. It was scrutiny. Soon after, I heard through a contact that Dane was scrambling to correct clerical errors. He blamed accountants. He blamed timing. He blamed miscommunication. But pressure was building around him, and he couldn't see where it was coming from. I watched from a distance as cracks formed in the confident image he worked so hard to maintain. Phone calls grew shorter. His tone sharper. A planned investor dinner was quietly cancelled. For the first time, he wasn't controlling the narrative. I was. There was a strange calm in knowing I didn't need to shout. Facts were doing the work for me. Each delayed contract, each raised eyebrow from an advisor, felt like a quiet confirmation that I wasn't powerless. He still didn't realize I was behind it. That was the advantage. These weren't dramatic victories. No applause. No confrontation across a table. Just small shifts. Subtle consequences. And with every shift, I felt stronger, not because he was weakening, but because I finally understood how to stand my ground without begging to be heard. This was only the beginning. The truth unfolded in a way I hadn't expected. While reviewing archived correspondence tied to the estate adjustments, I found a private agreement outlining profit distributions once control shifted fully. 2 additional names were listed as beneficiaries. My mother. My father. Compensation in exchange for non-interference. It wasn't manipulation from a distance. It was participation. They hadn't been persuaded. They had agreed. My absence wasn't inconvenient for them, it was profitable. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. Not from shock this time, but from the weight of understanding. Every unanswered call. Every casual dismissal. It had all been deliberate cooperation. Instead of collapsing under it, I adjusted. I began strengthening connections around me. Marisol, a night supervisor at the conference center, quietly helped me access archived visitor logs and event records tied to Dane's networking efforts. A concierge named Theo, who had overheard several suspicious conversations during past estate gatherings, provided detailed recollections of private meetings. Then came Ivy Caldwell, an independent investigative journalist known for examining financial misconduct in family trusts. I didn't offer her accusations. I offered documentation. Timelines. Verifiable inconsistencies. She listened carefully and asked precise questions. A framework began forming. Not revenge driven by anger. Exposure built on verification. Together, we mapped the sequence: asset restructuring, strategic absence, conditional benefits. It was cohesive, undeniable when viewed in full. I didn't confront anyone yet. Instead, I allowed the pieces to align publicly through proper channels: formal reviews, scheduled board discussions, regulatory inquiries initiated by third parties. They believed they were insulated by silence. They didn't realize the silence had shifted. When the moment arrived, it wouldn't be explosive emotion across a dining table. It would be controlled disclosure in a room, filled with decision makers. And this time I wouldn't be the one unprepared. The annual estate gala was held in the main ballroom of my grandmother's foundation building. Crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, catered tables, everything designed to project legacy and unity. I arrived unannounced. Conversation softened when I stepped inside. Some faces registered surprise. Others avoided eye contact. At the center of the room stood Dane, confidently entertaining investors beside my mother and father. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't create a scene. When the board chair began the formal address, I requested the floor. Murmurs followed, but permission was granted. I walked to the podium with a folder in my hands, organized, indexed, certified. I began with timelines. Dates of asset transfers. Authorization changes. Conditional profit allocations tied to my documented absence. I projected copies onto the large screen behind me. Gasps rippled across the room. I outlined discrepancies in valuation reports, highlighted unauthorized revisions, and concluded with the private agreement listing compensation for silence. Their names appeared clearly for everyone to see. My mother's face drained of color. My father shifted backward, as if distance could undo what was visible. Dane attempted to interrupt, calling it a misunderstanding, but I calmly referenced independent verification already submitted to regulatory review. The room shifted from confusion to realization. No accusations. No dramatics. Just facts. Board members began whispering among themselves. A legal consultant requested immediate document review. Investors stepped away from Dane. For the first time, he looked uncertain. I finished by stating that transparency protects legacy better than deception ever could. Then I stepped aside. There was no applause. Only silence heavy with consequence. As security discreetly approached for private discussions, I felt something steady within me, not triumph, not bitterness. Clarity. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had revealed what was already broken. And I had done it without losing myself. The fallout moved quickly after that night. An independent audit confirmed irregular transfers and unauthorized restructuring. Emergency votes were called. Control of the estate was suspended pending full review. Within weeks, temporary authority shifted into a court-supervised structure, removing Dane from any executive position. Civil proceedings followed. Restitution orders were issued. Frozen accounts were examined. Misrepresented filings were corrected. By the end of it, my legal standing was fully restored, along with financial access that had been withheld. But consequences didn't stop there. Community boards quietly requested my parents step down from charitable committees. Invitations slowed. Professional partnerships distanced themselves. The social circle they once relied on grew noticeably smaller. I didn't celebrate publicly. I didn't need to. Justice, when structured properly, speaks for itself. One afternoon, as I exited a downtown office building after signing final settlement documents, I noticed a familiar figure leaning against a black sedan. Harlan Voss. He gave a small nod, as if this outcome had never been in doubt. Most people collapse under pressure, he said evenly. You refined it. I asked why he had spoken to me that first day. He adjusted his cufflinks. Potential is easy to recognize. Discipline is rare. Before stepping into his car, he handed me a business card. No promises. No pressure. Just possibility. As the vehicle disappeared into traffic, I looked down at the skyline reflected in the glass doors behind me. I felt lighter. Not because anyone had fallen, but because I had risen without compromising myself. What began with exclusion ended with accountability. What started as isolation concluded with independence. I hadn't just corrected an injustice. I had rebuilt my foundation. And this time, it belonged entirely to me. I used to believe belonging meant loyalty at any cost. I thought blood guaranteed protection, that shared history created unbreakable bonds. I was wrong. What I walked through changed the way I see power, trust, and myself. I learned that silence can hide corruption, that comfort can disguise compromise, and that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who benefit most from your absence. But I also discovered something far more important. Resilience isn't loud. It's built in quiet decisions, choosing discipline over impulse, preparation over panic, integrity over bitterness. Every document I organized, every meeting I attended, every moment I held my composure shaped me into someone steadier than I had ever been. I no longer carry the need for their approval. I no longer replay conversations wishing for different outcomes. The weight I once felt has dissolved into clarity. Peace didn't arrive all at once. It came gradually, through independence, through structure, through reclaiming my voice in rooms where it once went unheard. I've moved into a new place overlooking the water. It's modest, intentional, entirely mine. Mornings are quiet. Evenings are focused. My work now centers on estate ethics reform, helping other families avoid the manipulation I experienced. Distance from them created space for growth. I don't hate them. I simply understand them. And understanding removed their control. When I think back to that turning point, I don't see abandonment anymore. I see initiation. A moment that forced transformation. There are new ventures ahead. New partnerships to evaluate. New challenges that will test what I built. This chapter closes without chaos. Not with revenge. With evolution. I'm no longer reacting to betrayal. I'm designing what comes next. Do you think I handled everything the right way, or should I have chosen forgiveness instead? I truly want to know your thoughts. Share your opinion below, and if my journey moved you, subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories.